Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cam's rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Hank's Think Tank. Told you we were going to be doing some more shows, and here we are. I have Brian Garcia in with me today, and he is the Customer Service Manager for Entergy, Texas. And without those guys, we'd be powerless. See what I did there?
Hey!
So there you go. Morning, Brian. How's it going?
Morning, Hank. How are you?
Pretty good. So a lot's gone on past couple of years with power and with energy and ERCOT and freezes and this, that, and the other. So it's good to have you in and talk about some of that stuff and find out where we are.
It's been too long, Hank. Too long.
It has. It has just been too long.
To talk about energy, I'm in here a bit.
Yeah.
For other business.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can mention that.
Absolutely. So why not? Yeah.
Here at Studio 1-3, the premier recording facility in Southeast Texas.
That's it.
That's it.
So Brian has a great group, Tom Foolery. Their music is awesome, and they've been recording here for quite some time and have turned out some really good stuff. It's been good.
Yeah. Thank you.
And the cool part about that is that they try to ensure that my power stays on.
Always.
But I don't really have any problems with that. But, I'm concerned with growth in Montgomery County. I think that we're actually experiencing the growing pains that an adolescent would. And so I think you guys have come up with a program to answer that and take a look at it. You want to talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. No, the growth in East Montgomery County it's one of those things. It's exciting, but when you start to get into what those numbers are, it's like, oh,
yeah,
it's that kind of exciting. It's like roller coaster exciting.
It affects everything, and you don't think it's gonna, but it does.
Yeah, pick an industry, pick a facet of society. It's touching it. No, so you and I were kind of talking about my career with Entergy. Prior to being I've been in customer service now about 4 years, 4 and change. But before this, I was in a group called Resource Planning and Market Operations. And essentially what we did, we would look at, okay, what are the growth trends over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
Okay.
And okay, if the growth is here, we're going to need this much electricity. This is where we are today. How do we make up that gap? So that was what my group did. So I really had a kind of intimate front row seat at what that growth is. And, part of our business, we've got to not just keep the lights on today with hardworking linemen and operators in the power plants, but we've got to look down the road, look into a crystal ball, read tea leaves, whatever we can do. Obviously, we're looking at growth data to figure out what are we going to need to do between now and then to fill that gap.
Yeah.
So we've come up with what we're calling the Step Ahead, the Southeast Texas Energy Plan. And again, it's trying to stay a step ahead of that growth. And it's a multi-tiered kind of plan that helps us think through and make sure we're getting all the things done that we need to. Because when we talk about that growth, you're looking at, Texas's population by 2050. Do you know what it's supposed to be?
I don't even want to know, but no. What is
40 million people in Texas by 2050. And think about Houston. Houston is like,
man, that's shoulder to shoulder.
Well,
it really is.
But think about what's going up and down, 69. It's like that's why. Yeah. Because where do people want to be? They want to live in a place that is a great environment, great place to raise kids. You know how wonderful the schools are around here. It's like, so this is a high demand area. We talk about Texas is growing, but like this little corner, like this 59 corridor, East Montgomery County, Liberty County, is kind of like the epicenter, I feel, of that growth. Now, granted,
it sure does feel that way.
My territory, yeah. I'm partial, but
I get it. So how accurate has the growth data that you guys have gotten and that you've worked your plan from, how accurate has that data been? Has it been pretty on the mark? Or?
Yeah. So far, so good. And it's kind of been able to lead us in kind of a good path. And I guess I got off the 6 steps are to that step ahead thing. But, when we think about this being a great place to build a business, raise a family, whatever it is, a lot of the reasons people come here is because the rates are affordable. If you look, our rates, believe it or not, are like below the nation average easily, but also like below the region average. And to continue to attract people, we've got to keep those rates low. So that's kind of first and foremost, everything we're doing. We're keeping those rates low because that's critical. But once we like kind of think through that, it's about generation. Something that's a little bit different about us. I know you were asking me about ERCOT. You know, we're outside of ERCOT, and because of that, we are actually a fully integrated, what's called a fully integrated utility. And that's, it's kind of cool because we own the whole system soup to nuts. Basically, your power plant, your transmission, your substations, distribution lines, even all the way to the meter on your house. We own that. And so
ERCOT doesn't oversee it.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
If you're in ERCOT, you are part of the deregulated market. But what deregulated means, they broke up all those pieces. Like, so you've got power generating companies, and that's all they do. And they have nothing to do with the transmission companies. That's all that they do. Then you've got kind of the wires companies, we call them. I mean, like CenterPoint, for instance, they're a wires company.
Right.
And so it's like those things are all broken up. Entergy, we're the whole thing.
Yeah, and it sounds like when it's broken up, everybody's got to make their bank. And so that's why the rates are probably higher. Because it's not centralized, and you know.
That's part of it for sure. No, and you
like
get the
that makes
economies of scale. So it's like, I'm sure they find margin there. But, you know, a big part of it too is, what we like about it is just the ability to communicate. When we have a storm like, and I'm going back to 2021 here, but like one of the things that was so hard for some of those deregulated entities is like, all right, I'm the power plant company. I need to talk to the wires guys. Well, they're not in the same room with me. And if we're not communicating effectively, that just delays everything. At Entergy, we're all on the same page because we're all the same company.
Right.
So our power plant guys are talking to the substation guys, are talking to the distribution, you know, so it's like that kind of streamlined communication really helps a lot of stuff out. And so that's one of the benefits of being, like we say, fully integrated. But one of the other benefits is like, we can look pretty clearly, okay, if we know this is where the growth is going to be, then we've got a lot of different ways we can meet that growth. A big part is building power plants, and we got to do that now. And that's kind of the second step, is building more power generation immediately. And like, we've gone to the PUCT, we've submitted like a formalized plan. Like, this is how, like, we think we could do it. We think we could pull it off, and we think we can be successful in meeting that growth. So we've submitted this plan to the PUCT. They're looking at it, but I mean, you're talking about a 40% increase in demand. Like what we have today versus what we're going to need by 2028. So like 3 years.
Yeah, that's nothing.
40%.
40% over 3 years.
So like we've got this plan. And
how stretched are we now? I mean, are we close to you know, that top end?
No, and I mean, we've been doing this for years. Like we've been looking ahead. So like, we're good.
Okay.
We've got, you know, and I look back to the freeze that we just had, for instance. You didn't hear about any issues because we're solid. Like our distribution, our transmission, our generation, all those pieces are firing the way they should be. And, you know, it was a non-event, which is great because we are able to meet that. And so the question is, like I said, it's about being a step ahead and making sure we're always ahead of that. Because I mean, the last thing in the world, we love the growth. We love seeing this area thrive. You know, I live 15 minutes away from here. You know, this is my home too. So it's like, I want to see this place thrive. But the only way that happens is if we're not a stumbling block. And the way that we do that is by continuing to stay ahead of the growth and like being ready for people before they get here. So that's kind of our perspective. So you got to build the generation. And a big part of that is kind of what we call dispatchable power. Like, for instance, I hit the light switch. What do the lights do? Hopefully. They come on, right?
Yeah.
I can dispatch that light. What's tricky about some of the technology that we see now in the generation world, and I'm talking, and I'm not disparaging, but like, for instance, solar panels. Sun's not shining. Those panels
you're not
aren't.
making
You're not
power.
creating. Same thing with the wind. The wind's not blowing. Turbine's not turning. I can't dispatch that. I've got to wait for that resource to come online to be able to use that power. With some of the dispatchable technology, and I mean, we're talking, you know, natural gas. That's primarily what we're building. That's the benefit, is like, I know when I turn the switch on, it's going to create the power I need.
Right.
You know? at the same time, we're looking at what's called kind of all of the above generation. Because at the same time, we don't want to get ourselves into a position where we're like, well, we really should have been doing solar this whole time, but we were so focused on this and now we're behind the eight ball. Like we want to continue to be the experts. And so we're building, we have solar facilities today that we're operating, and we're going to continue to do those so that, we can benefit from them. And I mean, I'll tell you what, like I am kind of converted now, because these big solar facilities that we build, you think like, oh, well, the sun's not out, they're not creating electricity. But you know what? During the summer in Texas, the sun's out.
Yeah, like big time.
So, I mean, I'll tell you, this last summer was kind of one of the first times we were able to look at what those solar facilities can do, and it was impressive. Like during the summer when it's like everybody's got the AC blasting, like we've seen what the peak does, and it's like it gets up there.
Yeah.
But the solar facilities are great. They kind of took the edge off.
Okay.
And so we gave us a little bit of cushion. It was really nice. So like we're all about exploring all the different kinds of technology, and even with like our dispatchable power, those generators we have, we're building some of them. Like one of them is called the Orange, that's being built right now over in Orange County. It's called the Orange County Advanced Power Station, OCAPS. It has the optionality to also fire off of hydrogen. Now, that didn't get approved by the PCT, but we are building it so that in the event that we can get it approved, we could actually fire that thing on hydrogen as opposed to natural gas.
Yeah.
And so we're really kind of looking at...
And I've heard that hydrogen may be the gas of the future,
We've heard the same thing.
So, and it's cleaner, a lot cleaner, right?
Well, and you've got the different colors. I don't know if you've heard about that. There's like different colors that kind of signify different grades of hydrogen.
Right.
And so we're looking at all of it. We really want to be like your expert in all these electricity. Okay. And so, this all of the above generation approach is kind of important to it.
So going back just for a second to solar generation, building those facilities, are they a lot more expensive than just your standard generation facilities, or is that starting to balance itself out now that technology's moved a little bit farther down the road? Or
so the scales, if you're looking at that, the scales are still kind of figuring themselves out, if you know what I mean, just because
cattywampus. Yeah.
Well, and it's just a question of kind of the changing political climate. Are the subsidies there? Are they not there? So that changes those economics. So we're constantly looking at that, because at the end of the day, what was the first thing we said? It was keeping rates affordable. And if pursuing one kind of line of technology is going to put our customers in a bad spot, we don't want to do that. So we've got to constantly be reassessing the economics behind some of these generators. So that's what our perspective is. And as long as it makes dollars, it makes sense, right? And so keeping the rates low and staying on top of whatever the technological advancements are, like, we've got our folks in Austin that are always looking at what those are, folks in DC that are looking at what the subsidies are and how that affects things. So it's a lot of really smart people, smarter than me, that are kind of helping us stay honest and do the best we can.
Let's hope they're smart people.
They are. Yeah. I know. And that's one thing, like being with the company for 15 years, I've met a lot of people, and that's one thing I love about Entergy. It's like the folks that I get to work with are consistently like, man, you're pretty impressive. You know what I mean? It's like, it's cool people.
So what was your first job at Entergy?
Oh gosh, I was actually in the HR department. My degree is in HR. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, it was a wild job. Like, I mean, you think about what you hear in HR, there's some wild stuff that happens in any company in America, right? You're going to hear about stuff. And so it was kind of fun. But what was cool about being in HR was like, I was supporting the utility, so I got to see sort of the breadth of what the different jobs were and what they did. And the woman I worked for, her name was Priscilla Kajowski, and she had been with the company for a while, so she knew a lot and was really good about sort of feeding me information about it. And so I would hear about these different parts of the company and what they did, and really got a good perspective of like, this is a big industry and there's a lot to it.
It's huge.
And so I jumped from HR, then I got into operations, and then I was in kind of customer service analytics. Then I jumped over to public affairs, and then I did that stint in resource planning for almost 5 years, and it was great. And then just last 4 years been here in customer service. So I've really gotten to see how the company works internally, but then also the external facing stuff, which is kind of what I love to do.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
At least it keeps you out in the field.
Yeah,
so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I know. I love
All right,
that.
so let's continue with step ahead. It's interesting. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you build all the generation, you make sure it's dispatchable, you're looking at all the different kinds of technology, but there's also the things you can do to get the power to where it needs to be. So, you've heard of transmission lines versus distribution. The transmission is great because it helps move power from one place. Like I said, we're building in Orange County, and it's like, well, what good does that do over here? Well, we've got transmission lines that move power from there to over here if it's needed, or over to Beaumont if it's needed.
Right.
So,
And
building
through intelligent switching, you can make determinations based on storms and patterns and everything else, right?
No,
Usage.
exactly.
Yeah.
No, the technological piece is huge to that, and those kind of big transmission projects that we do help us, look at, okay, where is the need? Can we put it over there? How do we do that most effectively, most efficiently?
Cool.
And again, helps keep the rates low because it is cheaper to build transmission lines than it is to build the power plant. So it's kind of like we talk about a scale, there's a lot of factors. Does it make more sense to build a power plant here? Does it make sense to just build some transmission to move it from A to B? And so we're looking at some of that rerouting and kind of putting the power where it's needed. We belong to the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, MISO. That is sort of the counterpart of ERCOT.
Okay.
So ERCOT is the Texas Regional Transmission
Right.
Operator, and then we've got the or RTO, sorry, and then we are part of MISO. And MISO, what's cool about it is it takes all the Entergy footprint, so Texas, Louisiana, part of Mississippi, almost all of Arkansas, and then goes all the way up to Canada.
Okay.
And so we're part of that whole big kind of RTO power grid, so to speak.
Wow.
And what they do is they're looking at not only our kind of balance and what we're using, but they're looking at everybody that belongs to that as well. And so they're able to kind of send the electrons wherever they need to keep everything balanced.
So it's national planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
amazing.
Like I said, even into Canada. So,
Yeah.
technically international, right?
Yeah, I always find it interesting in certain industries. You have to zoom out to get an idea of what's really going on. You can't have localized thinking. It's like if you guys just thought on a local level, it literally wouldn't work.
It'd be tough. Yeah. And that's one of the things and we definitely don't disparage our friends over in ERCOT. They made the best decision they could, how they wanted to when they did, but it's like to be part of an organization like MISO that helps us keep things balanced, it's really helped us out in some tough situations,
Sure.
Storms and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
they help us as far as we talk about where things need to where the power needs to be rerouted. Their data and what we get from them helps us out a lot as far as building out our transmission structure. But the next part of that is also while you're rerouting things is you want to keep the lights on and you want your reliability to be as strong as possible,
Sure.
right? Nobody wants, when they flip on the switch, they want the lights to come on. And so we're also talking about protecting the grid from kind of extreme weather events is what we call them, and
we're having more and more of those.
well, and it used to
climate
be
change, I
down
guess.
here, it was just hurricanes, right? Or thunderstorms. But now, just about every winter we're looking at, okay,
Freaking tornadoes in December. What in the heck?
dude, and that was like a real tornado.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
That was not like a little EF3 or whatever. That was,
it was
it was an EF3. It was not a small
But
storm.
still, a EF3 is major.
Yes.
Scared me, man. Good.
Yeah, no,
Sure
and that
did.
was, I don't know, our guys are talking about just the destruction, and it was crazy. I guess we're used to what we're used to. We all grew up with hurricanes. We know
Right.
what that looks like.
Yeah.
But to walk into what a tornado looks, I'm sure if you talk to linemen in Missouri or Kansas, they'd be like, "Yep, that's what you guys had." You know what I mean? But for us, it was such a, because you see that, and these are our neighbors, so it kind of breaks your heart to see what that does. But part of this step ahead is not only building the new stuff, but taking what we've got and making it stronger. More durable, more resilient is the term.
Yeah.
And that's another
Strengthening the infrastructure.
Exactly.
I'm all for that. We need to do that in all facets.
Yeah.
We
No,
just do.
100%.
As a country, Yeah.
Well, and we've, that's something we've already started. Just a couple weeks ago, we got this resiliency plan that we submitted to the PCT. It got approved. And so they gave us a green light. Go ahead and move forward with this plan. And so we're doing that. No, it's going to be great to see the effects of that on the reliability of the communities. And it's, and it, like I said, it's the transmission stuff, it's the distribution, it's looking at kind of your hot spots. Like, what are the areas that we have consistent trouble with, and how do we like go directly into that area and make that area better? So it's not just like a peanut butter spread. Oh, let's make everything a little bit better. It's like, no, we're trying to be strategic with this and go
Right.
to the most the most affected places and do what's best for that area. You know what I mean?
And it sounds like you guys get enough data to where you've got analysts somewhere in an office that are taking a look at all this and going, okay, this is obviously a trouble spot. So we need to circle that. And maybe that trouble spot is because of this condition. So, yeah, you're able to answer your own questions that way without guesswork. And, yeah, I think that's awesome.
No, our engineering teams are pretty, again, talking about impressive people. I get to work with them pretty closely whenever there's projects, but we also have kind of new projects. Those guys are engineering and building that stuff out, but we've also got engineers that look at nothing but reliability. Like all day, they're looking at outages and kind of figuring out where those hot spots are and then doing that analysis. And again, just a
that's cool,
very brilliant
I
group
like
of people.
it.
And they're the ones that kind of help us see, okay, this is where that money is best spent, you know. So
and I think a lot of times, you know, ordinary people who pay their bills, when they think of the light company, you know, they think of linemen that are fixing things out there, and really they don't really consider all that support personnel, all the money that's spent for data, all the money that's spent for research. All that's got to come from somewhere. And that's why our electric cost a little bit. I mean, it's really not that bad here, but it does cost, but that money's being used for all those purposes. It's not just going to a select few.
No.
Because I think it's easy for people to just centralize and localize their thoughts on how things work without knowing.
Well, and I mean, you know, Entergy,
so that's why it's good to have you in here, you know.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here, but it's, you know, Entergy as a corporation, you're talking about more than 13,000 employees. It's a lot of people. Yeah. And granted, it's, you know, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, but it's a lot of people, and all those folks support each other. We all support each other and trying to be the best operating companies we can. So, I mean, so those are kind of your high level. Those are the things we're trying to do, you know.
Okay.
Again, we talked about the protecting the grid from the weather stuff, the rerouting it, all of the above generation, building generation now, making sure it's dispatchable. And then, like I said, first and foremost, keeping the costs low. Yeah. So that's step ahead in a nutshell.
Great. So are you aware of any technological advances that would replace your standard power poles that are still trees, you know, that are made from trees? And so, I mean, are we going more with steel these days or aluminum? What have we found that's comparable, that works well and maybe is more cost effective?
Yeah, and that's one where we really lean on kind of our engineers and like the guys on the front line to tell us what the best application is. Because, in some cases, the old wooden pole, 40-foot wooden pole is going to be the way to go.
They last forever. How? I don't know, but they last a good long time.
Hey, man, God wasn't messing around when he made trees, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
But but at the same time, and you've seen just right up the road here, like sometimes those huge steel structures are what you need. But then we've also, I think most recently is the fiberglass poles. You're seeing more of those. Again, it just depends on the application and what you're doing. And again, when you know where your hotspots are, you know what your kind of issues are. You know, is it trees? Is it wind? Is it people running into poles with their cars? It's you use the right application.
Right.
So it depends. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a super, you need a thing to hold the lines in the air. So there's only so many materials that are going to do that job the way you want to.
Sure.
Steel, fiberglass, wood, you know. So
well, do you think there would ever be a benefit in trying to bring everything underground? I know that some communities have most of their power underground, and I've always wondered, doesn't that flood? I mean, it seems like it would.
Yeah.
You know,
no.
Underground. How does all that work?
Yeah, underground is not like a panacea. It is not like the perfect option. But I mean, we do a lot of that. A lot of kind of like when somebody comes in, wants to build one of these big developments, like if they decide they want to invest money to have all the lines underground, absolutely we do that. And in some cases, like we were talking about with the Step Ahead program, sometimes that's the answer. When we talk about improving the reliability and kind of the resiliency of the grid, sometimes that's the answer. Sometimes it's burying the lines. And so we do that too. Wow. Again, it just depends on what the appropriate course of action is. But no, I mean, Underground lines, it seems like, especially around here, we're used to trees, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the trees are tough, but it's like when a tree falls on a line, I can see there's a tree, there's a line, that's where I need to fix it.
Right.
There you go. But when it's buried, they still have outages. And the problem is it's underground, so you can't see where the fault is. And so,
yeah, you have to rely on testing. Yeah.
right. And so your response time is a little trickier. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to each one. And I mean, yeah, you don't have a tree that's going to, trees don't fall into lines that are underground, but roots grow into them. People dig into them all the time. And when you think about growth, you know, everybody's putting in like internet or water lines or whatever, like our stuff gets dug into a lot.
Oh, wow.
And so it's good with the bad. And again, sometimes that's the answer. Sometimes the application is, yes, we should bury it. And we do. But it just depends what makes the most sense.
Great. So how can somebody reach out to Brian Garcia if they need to get in touch and say, hey, I've got a problem that's been going on for a long time, or I've noticed something that doesn't quite look safe, or whatever the case may be? What's the best course of action for that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we've got folks 24/7 answering phones, 1-800-ENTERGY. And that's like, I want to set up service. I got a question. I got a problem. Now, if you have an outage, if you're like out of power, that's a separate. It's 1-800-9-OUTAGE. So 9 OUTAGE. So two separate things. I would say use that specifically. Like, hey, we're out of lights. 1-800-9-OUTAGE. But anything else, 1-800-ENTERGY. Again, folks, that's all they do is answer the phone, answer questions about Entergy. Okay. They'd be the ones to talk to, but they can get you set up with new service, answer questions, safety issues, whatever it is. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and talking about Step Ahead. I think it's great.
Absolutely.
And it's good that you guys are being proactive. You don't see that in every industry. You know, it's a lot of times they're reactive and they just fix what breaks or whatever without really considering what's going on in the future. I also appreciate the numbers on where we expect to be population wise.
Yeah.
In such a soon amount of time. That's interesting and means a lot for a lot of different industries here in Montgomery County.
Well, hey, if you ever want to dig into that stuff more, let me know. We've got numbers for days.
Also, I wanted to thank you personally. I never got a chance to, but you've supported us in my hurricane awareness program that we do every year. And it's been big, and it's really helped the community a lot. And the education piece is amazing. So thank you personally for that.
Oh, absolutely. No, we love doing that because, I mean, the more the public knows about how to react and what's going on, the easier it is for everybody. So we always try and get into that stuff. So please keep including
And
us.
I love the piece, just, here's the reason why we fix things in the order we fix them. I think a lot of people didn't know that. And I had a lot of comments about that after our last one, which we've got one coming up in just a few months. I think maybe April, May.
Awesome.
Is when we're going to kick another
Say
one off.
when, man.
God, it seems like it was just yesterday.
Yeah, no, I once heard it referred to as that the electric grid is the largest machine in the world. And if you think about it, all those pieces got to work together. And so it's a complex machine. It's a big puzzle. And so anything we can do to demystify and keep it running,
Yeah. I always wonder what the aliens think when they're flying over at night. They're like, wow, man, they sure got a lot of lights.
Yeah, maybe.
So there
Who
you
knows
go.
what they're thinking.
That's it. All right, Brian Garcia, Entergy, Texas. And this has been a good conversation, enlightening. And we're looking forward to some more updates, and we'll be looking for new construction in the area. I think it's a good idea.
Always.
All right.
Thank you, Hank Fat.
No problem. Well, there you have it, guys. Keeping you informed, doing what we can, and providing some good, solid information. I'm Hank Vatt. This is Hank's Think Tank, and guess what? We'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, dude.